Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tara Brown. I work in the Office of Insurance and Risk Management. I'll be sharing with you today our travel insurance and security program, as well as some of the updates and changes that we've seen in terms of our insurance coverage due to COVID. There are three takeaways that I want to leave with you today. Number one, I want you to remember to register your travel when you're traveling on university business and going more than 100 miles from the campus or home. The second thing I want you to take away is to update your travel profile with emergency contact information so that we can find you in an emergency. And finally, we want you to know before you go so we'll be providing some links to travel information resources, including ways to research the COVID rates in your destination. We'll be providing a copy of this presentation to you afterwards so that you will have those links. So, travel insurance coverage. What is covered when you're traveling on university business are things like emergency travel services, so you lose your passport or your wallet and you need some emergency cash, emergency medical services, so maybe you're injured or you need to see a doctor or you need to be hospitalized, information services, and security extraction services, so maybe you need to be evacuated from your location. The biggest change is in terms of what is not covered. So in the past, travel interruptions and cancellations were covered, but the thing to note is that if the cancellations are due to COVID restrictions or cancellations, you have to quarantine in the location you're traveling in as a requirement to enter a country, or you have to quarantine as a result of a positive COVID test. Those things are not covered. They're considered to be expected events. So what may be covered is if you, for example, get sick with COVID while traveling on university business and you need to be hospitalized, that may be covered. That's most likely going to be covered. And also the possibility of like an emergency hotel convalescence. So maybe you're hospitalized due to COVID and you need to convalesce at a hotel until you can return home. That's probably covered. The thing to note is that the domestic travel insurance coverage is more limited than if you're traveling internationally. Also, if you're an employee, there is personal health insurance and also workers' compensation insurance that will come into play. The other thing I wanted to note is if you are traveling to a polar region such as Greenland or Antarctica, there are some forms you need to fill out for your insurance to apply before you travel. And also if you're going to a sanctioned country, such as Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Syria, or the Crimea region, there's additional forms you need to fill out. And FAM's going to talk in more detail about sanctioned countries. And if you have any questions about whether your trip will be covered or additional questions about that, we have a link to the travel benefit summary, and you can also contact UCOP directly with your coverage questions. I wanted to talk briefly about what happens when there is actually a travel emergency. So the first thing that happens is our office gets a notification of the event. And then at that point, we're asked to find out, well, who is in those regions that are affected? So we look at our registered travel list, but of course not everyone registers, unfortunately. So we also have a travel listserv of programs that have frequent travel to identify anyone that might also be in that affected area. And then we confirm their safety. We either confirm their safety through the WorldQ app, which I will talk about in a minute. We might send you a text message or you might get an email. So those are the reasons why we ask that you register your travel and provide emergency contact information so that we can find you and contact you in an emergency. And then we'll coordinate the benefits. So that could be evacuating you from a location. We've had travelers that didn't provide this information and we were only given a small window, 72 hours to get them out of that country, but took us 36 hours to find them. So it leaves us a much smaller window to get you to a position of safety. So that's really why it is important to tell us where you're going and how to contact you. So there's two ways of doing this and registering your trip. It either can happen automatically. So if you book through the UC Travel Center, your registration is automatic. You get a welcome email, you get your insurance card. Let's say you book outside the UC Travel Center, you use Kayak or Expedia, or you book directly through the airline. In that case, we don't have a record of your travel, so you need to register your trip manually through the Away site. It doesn't take very long. It's a very simple process. But once you do that, again, it's the same thing. You get your welcome email and your insurance card. This is what the insurance card looks like. It has some phone numbers if you need emergency assistance, as well as the group ID number to ask for assistance. So this is what the Away site looks like. Again, this is the website that you'll be using if you need to register your trip manually. It's pretty self-explanatory and easy to navigate, but what I would point out are a couple of features. One is you can download a template and register a group at the same time. So I think that's a helpful feature. The one thing I did want to emphasize is really enter the traveler's contact information. The Away website is very clear that you're providing the traveler's information, but I do see occasionally from time to time where maybe someone's registering on behalf of a director or a dean and they don't want to disturb that person, so they'll put in their own information. But it is critical to enter the traveler's information because, again, that's how travelers get emergency notification. So I've seen in the past where there's like a 2000, I think it's a 2015 terrorist attacks in Paris. Someone registered their dean, but they put in their own information. So that person got all the alerts saying, stay in your hotel, don't leave, and the dean did not, and then left their hotel. So that really put that person in danger by not providing the traveler's information. So again, it is really important. I can't emphasize that enough. So this is the welcome email that you get when registering your trip. It'll have all the steps of how to activate your profile, how to update your emergency contact information, as well as a link to the WorldAware app that I'll share in another slide. If, for example, if for some reason you don't get this email, you have a duplicate account, just send us a quick email and we'll fix your account. So this is the WorldAware site. This is where you're going to update your emergency contact information. There's three types of emergency contact information that you can provide. One is your information, so your cell phone number, any additional email addresses that you might use, traveling contact information, so maybe the address of your hotel, maybe a cell phone number that you'll only use while traveling. And then also you can provide emergency contact information. So, it could be a spouse, a friend, a colleague, someone that knows what your travel plans are and where you might be. You could also provide emergency contact information to only use while traveling. So it could be like the host at another university. So lots of different pieces of information to provide. If you don't provide this information, we will find you, but it will take us time, as I mentioned before. So we had another incident. The person didn't have emergency contact information, so we had to call the dean in the wee hours of the morning. The dean had to call the business manager, who had to contact the traveler, and it could take some time. So please provide this information. It really does save time, especially if we have hundreds of travelers in a location. It definitely makes life easier for all of us. So this is the WorldQ app. The app provides information about a location, but these are three features that I wanted to highlight specifically. There's a hotline button in case you need assistance. But if you're in an emergency situation, you can hit the crisis button and be transferred to the WorldQ Crisis Center for assistance. And there's also a link to emergency numbers at your location. Now, if there is an emergency and you're safe, you can hit the safety check-in button and let us know that you're fine. We'll pull up a list and see, okay, you checked in, you're safe, you do not need assistance. So the last thing I wanted to share in terms of know before you go are these websites. I know there's quite a number of websites listed here, and COVID is a very dynamic situation. So that's where we want you to be aware of some of the resources that are available to you. So there is the City of Los Angeles travel form. It's still required if you're entering Los Angeles from outside the state or outside the country and you're arriving specifically at LAX, the Van Nuys Airport, or Union Station. This advice closely follows the LA County Department of Public Health travel guidance, which also closely matches the CDC travel guidelines. So I would take a look at that if you're traveling domestically or internationally. There is, of course, the Department of State country information. So this provides a variety of information on the security risks at your destination, as well as other risks. They also have COVID-19 country-specific information, which the CDC also provides as well. The CDC has scored countries between 1 to 4 COVID health risks. So take a look at that. And we have the UC Travel Planner, which is available to all UC members, and it provides information about your destination, cultural information, financial information. So take a look at that when planning your trip. And then finally, there's the World Aware Business Resumption tool. So if you look at this tool, it'll tell you about some of the international and domestic travel restrictions related to COVID, some of the regulations and case numbers, and other COVID-19 related information. So I'm going to close with, if we know who you are, we can help you. So remember to register your trip, give us emergency contact information, and know before you go. I'm going to pause for questions.